Welcome to Altar of the Demo Gods. If you're wondering what advice from two experienced sales engineers sounds like, it's a little like this.
Welcome back to Altar of the Demo Gods. I'm Keith Wilson, joined by my co-host, John Morton, and back for another week, special guest, Jayden Belcher. How are you guys doing tonight?
Happy to be alive.
I love how you.
Yeah, good to be.
I love
here.
how you both waited for each other and then both went right at the exact same time.
Let's just cram it in together. Well, they missed the stories leading up to it, Keith. They missed Jayden getting a little purview of what it's like to hang out with us outside of a semi-professional setting.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, John, the last time you and I hung out at a bar, it was downtown Atlanta, and it was very tame. Like, I think, yeah.
I agree with that. We got a little loud, but I think because the ratchet level of the environment we're in was relatively low, but our ratchet level was relatively high. So had we have found balance,
we were getting, animated and whatnot, but we were well behaved and.
What's the name of that mall there? The JW Marriott at a Buckhead. Buckhead.
Yeah.
Buckhead.
Yeah, Buckhead is the swanky area here in Atlanta.
Swanky. I bought some Louboutins.
What are those? That sounds fancy.
They're not for me. Maybe Jayden can. They're red bottom heels. Louboutins.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm pronouncing it right.
Why does it matter what color the bottom is?
Dude, I guess that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's the statement right there.
But I mean,
it's the red bottom.
But does it stay red? Because I mean, you wear it once, it's gonna start to scuff.
So I heard a story about it. Like, they stay red enough, and they refuse Christian Louboutin out of Paris, France. They're not going to refinish them. So certain cobblers will sell a cover that goes over it. But we could probably have a whole topic about fashion and clothing. But in women's world, these are power shoes.
And that's been Shoe Talk with Altar of the Demo Gods.
Am I wrong, Jayden?
It's like the women's equivalent to like a Rolex, I would say.
Okay. Was not aware.
We should honestly do that, man. Like, I met this lady the other day in sales, and she broke it down for me, every piece of the outfit she wore that made the exact statement she wanted to make. And I don't know if men in technical sales think about it that much. I throw a vest on with a button-down shirt and maybe some sneakers, and I'm good. There's a whole science to how they're dressed.
Is there now? Like, is it science or is it just personal preference?
I don't know, Jayden. I think it's a science.
I would say a little bit of both, honestly. I would say science is the principle, and then there's like a little bit of personalization.
Ooh, some flair on top of it, right?
I mean,
flair.
You could.
How many pieces of flair do you got?
It doesn't hurt to be known as, to have that thing that people are like, oh yeah, that's the guy that's always dressed nice coming into our office, right? I guess that doesn't hurt. It's memorable.
I think also, I've heard it many times from sellers I've worked with. If you look good, you feel good. And if you feel good, you sell good.
Sure. But I don't like need name brand or anything like that necessarily to.
That's just you though, Keith. I don't know. There's a whole demographic out there. I don't know how we got here, but I'm just.
Well, I mean,
I learned a lot today.
Believe it or not, I know we recorded it a few weeks ago, but our last episode was on like brand awareness and branding and things like that. So it kind of fits in. It ties nicely. And
man, if Christian Louboutin wants to sponsor the Altar of the Demo Gods podcast, feel free to reach out. I will wear your heels in the next episode. That is a fact.
You're gonna wear it on this mostly audio medium for everybody to see.
I'll put the mic next to him so you can hear me clacking around on my wood floors, whatever it takes.
So we wanted to have Jayden back again this week because this week we're talking on a somewhat related note. And that's outbound campaigns, strategies, and best practices. So I don't do a ton of outbound stuff. I never have. But Jayden, I bet you do. I bet you do a lot of outbound prospecting.
Every day. Every day.
So
Living the journey.
I can't remember how much we talked about what an SDR does. I know we've talked about it on the show before, but as a basic reminder, the sales development rep or BDR, business development rep, those are generally the first sales contact that somebody has with a company, whether that's inbound, somebody has went to the website and they fill in the form saying, hey, I want more information. That's an inbound lead. Or there's outbound where you're reaching out to people and trying to bring them in. So Jayden, what percentage of your job would you say is focused on outbound versus inbound?
I would say about 80 to 90% is like outbound.
Okay. Yeah. So
compared to inbound. And like you said as well, I feel like the SDRs are the conversation starters of the sales process. So they're really, the people that are going to see if there's an appetite and see if the message that you're trying to portray, if it's going to resonate with what they're doing at the company. So
let's talk about, I don't even necessarily want to talk about campaigns. We don't need to talk about campaigns. It's more of a marketing thing. I don't know, maybe you run campaigns, but do you do like an individualized outbound, like reaching out to the customer?
Well, I think to kind of set the stage here, Keith, to show our age, what I read recently is that actually the boundary between marketing and sales is being converged, and this is exactly that.
Oh, for sure. So I know in a lot of organizations, like the BDR, SDR team will fall under the marketing team. Like they will report to the chief marketing officer in many organizations.
Yeah. So in that same vein, maybe if you could tell us, Jayden, like even what we've experienced together, you're doing outbound from a sales perspective, but there is so much valuable data you're gathering from a marketing perspective. In your opinion, where's that merger? Like, where do they meet? Do you look at them the same or not?
I don't look at them the same, but I look at them as like partners. Like they work with each other, I would say. When you're prospecting outbound, you're also gathering information that marketing can use, whether that be a message that really resonates with the customer or like a KPI metric on how many interactions does it take to get like an average deal going. I feel like it just works together on both sides.
So
that's different.
So
yeah.
Are you kind of like trying to constantly come up with a new message or refine your message and then report back to marketing like, oh, this messaging worked, and then they take that and kind of automate it? Is that?
Exactly. Yeah. They just kind of see what works, what resonates, what doesn't, along with just also keeping it fresh, not having the same message all the time. Like I personally like to keep it personalized, so whether that be, figuring out that you read an article that is in your industry and you can somehow tie that into personalizing that nugget with a different company while also kind of sharing your message as well, but also kind of having a baseline of what works to kind of come back to as well.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
A little bit. John, you look like you've got a question or something to say there. Either that or you're just really interested.
It's more of a thought. It is because I think we are literally on the verge of something new. Like when people look back at this and the AI overlords go back and interrogate our altar of the demigods conversation, and it'd be like, this was that moment. What I mean by that is like in my life of sales, BDR's roles, SDR's roles was always make 80 calls a day. And if you convert even 10% of those are deals. What's missing from that, which Jayden is kind of talking to without necessarily acknowledging it, is the metrics behind it. Like, why am I doing 80 calls? What am I hitting on in those 80 calls that works? How do we analyze that particular content and realize of the 5 that picked up in 80 calls, it was this exact message? Then marketing can take that and replicate it, right? So it's kind of like finally a merger's happening because of either the technology we have or whatever it is. But that's why I'm smirking and I'm leaning in, is it's like, that's all I've ever heard. Just call. But now Jayden, in her experience, it's like, well, give us the data from what you're doing too. It's kind of a different experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that before of collecting data for marketing. It's an interesting approach, especially because your team can be a lot more nimble and kind of change things on the fly, right? Generally, and I mean, obviously, smaller companies, marketing teams can change pretty rapidly, but generally, marketing teams have planned campaigns, right? They go, okay, we're going to put them into this email drip campaign that they may modify and do some things with, but to get that data from you guys, and then you could even do like instant A/B testing on the fly, right? Where you could tell me, well, this is working. Somebody else may tell me, well, this is working too, and I go, okay, I want this half of the team to do this messaging, and I want the other half of the team to do this messaging, and I'll see which one works better. Right, so you can kind of do on-the-fly testing like that too.
I just heard that term. It was called A/B.
You've never heard of A/B testing?
I don't know if you heard that
Yeah,
recently. Yeah, no, well, we heard it. We heard it recently, numerous times. Where Jayden, and I know it's funny, but Jayden, please compliment on this. Take your SpongeBob meme versus your Forrest Gump meme, and tell me between A and B which one hits better. Literally, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say Forrest Gump just because I use that one the most. But
see,
I mean, it's even I don't want to call it stupid, but it's little things like that even make a difference or will drive engagement or will have a light bulb moment with someone because they connect SpongeBob to whatever you're selling. You're not going to forget that company. I wouldn't.
No, the problem is when other companies in the space start marketing the same way, then it's hard to distinguish, right? If all of a sudden your biggest competitor starts putting out not necessarily SpongeBob memes, but similar enough memes, then you guys get put back on the same page again. So it's a strategy, Definitely. It's a technique, but you have to always be refining that message.
Definitely.
Yeah. So when you're doing outbound, what are you doing the outbound on? Is it calls? I'm sure it's split, multiple ways. Is it email? Is it calls? Is it LinkedIn? How are you spending your time reaching out to people?
All of the above. I would say definitely staying consistent on LinkedIn, always building new connections and just always engaging with those connections, whether it be through posts, comments, different groups, stuff like that. But also, back to the books, cold calling, emailing, and just trying to create a relevant enough message. But also, I mean, for me personally, I don't like to send a novel over to someone or send a big paragraph.
I'm not very that.
No, I'm not. I don't want to type all that.
Oh,
I'm very to the point. Yes or no.
I mean, I'm not even going to get past the first hello on there. I'll see a block of text and gone. Because instantly I'm like, oh, you're trying to sell me something. Gone. If I'm not not looking to be sold to, and I can tell that that I'm being sold to, I'm probably gonna just ignore it. Right.
Exactly. But that could even go down to the subject line. Does the subject line sound salesy? I'm not even going to open that. That's just going to go straight into the trash icon.
Yeah, I mean,
facts.
And that goes back to the A/B testing too, right? So we brought it up a couple times. So let's pause for a minute to explain what A/B testing is. It's simply just testing between two things to see which one works better, whether it's an email subject line or the body of an email. Or memes, right? Or if you're posting memes on LinkedIn that are some sort of messaging for your company. So you may start with something with two things that are completely different. So the SpongeBob meme and the Forrest Gump, right? Two completely different memes. Well, which one do they respond to better? Okay, well, they respond to the Forrest Gump meme. All right, cool. So let's go. We'll get rid of the SpongeBob meme. Now the Forrest Gump meme is the one to beat. That's our champion. So now we're going to make another Forrest Gump meme, something similar, and we're just going to change something a little bit different on that one. And we're going to see which one wins, and we're going to keep that one. And then you keep doing that, right, until you've refined that
Exactly.
to something that is pretty solid, that you have data and you know, analytics and things to back up. So when are you keeping any of that sort of stuff in mind when you're reaching out? Like how are you planning this? Are you coming up with the stuff on your own? Are you guys working together as a team to come up with something? What like when you're doing the messaging outbound, I guess is where I'm trying to go with it.
Definitely working as a team, and just connecting with marketing each week just to kind of make sure that both of our messaging is similar and aligned, you know, that I'm not saying one thing while they're marketing a different message. But also just to kind of collaborate with them and bounce ideas off each other. But also it's also individual as well. Like I'll make my own LinkedIn post, and even just in my own like emails or LinkedIn messaging, just trying to find different ways to break through
Yeah.
today's digital noise.
Yeah, let's double down on that, Jayden, because I got a question, right? So, like, I'm going to kind of lead the witness in a little bit of a way, but, you know, I like to imagine that, you know, Jayden, you are hungry. We love having you on the show. You know, you're good at what you do. You understand a newer generation and how to talk to them. You're talking to a seller that has a $15,000 Rolex, just bought his wife some Luke Bowdens, has $1 million home in Florida, and you're telling him about Forrest Gump memes. Would you say the better sellers are more receptive to that message, or they're like, Jayden, just make the calls? What do you look for in somebody in that team that's open to letting you explore and you know, do what's the fun part of that relationship and what's the bad part? Let's start with the fun part.
I would say the fun part is if I'm going to send someone a Forrest Gump meme right off the bat on LinkedIn, I kind of have a sense on if they're going to resonate with it based off their LinkedIn already. Like, is it updated? Are they active a lot? Like, do they use LinkedIn? You know? So I feel like that's kind of where I'll utilize it more.
Oh,
Are you saying the more I post to LinkedIn, the more I'm going to be targeted for by sales?
I'm not saying the more, like, I message everyone and their mother who connects with me on LinkedIn. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're active or not. I'm just saying it gives me a sense. Yeah, it gives me a sense. And if, like, do I actually think that you're going to answer this message? And if that's a yes or a no, if it's a no, then I'll be like, he's a little bit more traditional, he or she, and either give him a call or send him like a personalized email. You know, maybe connect with
I think
him
if
on
I could
Facebook.
extract from that, what makes Jayden so awesome is, and to summarize this for anybody listening, looking for insights, do your research. Who are you trying to reach out to? If they have 50 connections on LinkedIn and they haven't posted ever, and their last job was 2014, they're probably not going to receive this meme. But if they're actively posting, so you're saying do your research and you can understand maybe better how to communicate.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So
Read the room.
Get them on the hook. Read the room. You send them the perfect meme you pick between A and B, SpongeBob and Forrest Gump. They respond. You get them on the hook. Do you keep it short still? When do you send them the novel?
I don't send them the novel until I feel like I think they're actually interested. I keep it very casual. I keep it as if, like, I don't know, think you're on a dating app. You don't want to seem desperate. Why would I send them a paragraph right off the bat? Yeah. Like I'm gonna
want to be a thirsty BDR.
Do a little bit of Exactly. I'm gonna do a little bit of banter, get to know them a little bit, and then, you know, see if they're still interested, and then give them.
That's how I treat it every time, right? You're
and like,
yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk? marketing, social media marketing guy.
I've seen, I follow him on, he always tells me you can't convince somebody. I love that.
Yeah, so I don't know if he still talks about it, but he had this concept a while ago where he was talking about, I mean, he still always talks about, giving away things and being generous in your marketing and what your company does and things like that. But he used to talk about with your marketing, like, you don't want to just walk up to somebody and hit him over the head and be like, buy this from me, right? And he always talked to it. Right. He equated it to boxing, right? And he said, you're weaving, you give them little jabs, just little feelers, just let's see how this one lands. Hey, I just want to send you this one thing. I want to reach out. Hey, how you doing today? Hey, check out this new Forrest Gump meme. Here's it. And then when the moment's right, then you uppercut, right? So what John's
beautiful. He's seen me at the bar.
Jab, uppercut.
I do my research.
So
I'm like, wait a minute, hold on.
Jayden, and you may, for you, the uppercut isn't necessarily asking for the sale, it's asking for a meeting. When do you know to throw that punch instead of just the jab?
I would say when they start asking me questions, because then I know that they're interested enough to where if they're starting to ask me questions, they could also be interested enough to ask a little bit more questions in a qualified meeting setting where we can really kind of see if it's worth the squeeze.
Sounds good.
So you've turned their curiosity into interest.
Yeah.
Correct. Because then when they start asking me questions, I'll just play not dumb, but also I'm starting the conversation. I'm not finishing it. So I'm not going to be able to answer all your questions that you have. But if you are interested, I would love to set you up with someone that's a little bit more technical. Just have I don't want to waste your time. That's
remind them I have a job to do, Mr. or Mrs. Interest. I'm not just trying to come on to you on LinkedIn. I actually have a job. Would you like to take this meeting?
Correct. Correct.
Seems like an interesting fine line. But yeah, you got to keep it. You got to make it real at that point. Hey, this is transactional.
Believe me.
We had a sales rep that after taking customers out to dinner and stuff like that, and it'd get to the point where he's like, "Are you going to buy or not?" And he's like, "Listen, are you going to be a customer or a friend? Because we can be friends. That's cool, but I treat my customers a lot better than I treat my friends. So like, if we're friends, we can hang out, but I'm not necessarily buying, right?" So he would have that conversation of, are we customers or are we friends?
I like that idea, though. We always talk about it as the concept of an upfront contract. Like, hey, you know what you're getting into when you're dealing with me here. I didn't just drop that, how much does a polar bear weigh line to just get to know you. Like, this is an upfront contract. I got a job to do at the end of the day. I've always appreciated that, in all honesty, when someone is just upfront with me. Then I know where we stand. Are we going to be friends? Are we going to have a business relationship? Good point.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than small talk when somebody has like another motive. It's like when you get the Slack message from somebody at work out of the blue, somebody that you haven't talked to in months, and they're like, "Hey, how are things?
How are you?
How is everything?" The small talk, and you're just like, "Come on, just get to it. Like, we're not friends. We're barely acquaintances. Like, you need something, obviously. We know what the contract is here." Maybe I'm just being
around that.
Maybe I'm just being rude, but
is it
what's
there?
that?
Where that multi-level,
I agree with that.
Multi-level marketing reaches out. One of your old friends from high school reaches out like 20 years later. Like, "Hey, Keith, you look like you're doing really well. How are you?" And once you respond, "I'm now selling XYZ."
No, I don't want to sell essential oils. I don't want to be a doTERRA rep.
The hell's doTERRA?
I don't want to sell your Cutco knives.
I don't know. I might buy some knives, but I don't know what doTERRA is.
It's essential oils. It's an MLM company.
Those are the LinkedIn ones I get, by the way, from those BDRs where they're like, "Hey, I saw we're in the same community. Can we connect?" Within seconds, I don't even accept it, but I get the inbound message. "I'm selling XYZ. Maybe we should talk about it." I'm like,
See, and inbound messages, I don't think work. Unpopular opinion. I don't answer them. Why would anyone else answer them?
Right. Well, especially if they're not like, I think the meme approach is kind of the best you can do, right? Because nobody's going to answer. So what the hell? Might as well toss something out there that's going to grab their attention, right? Because I can tell you, if I get a meme from Jayden or anybody, I'm much more likely to at least look at it, right? I may not respond, but I'll at least look at it. But if you're a stranger that's messaged me at a LinkedIn, just out of the blue, and it starts with, we've helped companies by doing, and like, I'll get that far in and I'm like, I'm done. And I may even take the extra step to be like, yeah, we're not connected anymore either. Like, that's like, you've wasted my time. So
Petty
punishment.
Petty Keith, rejected. Shame. That's a good meme too. Shame, from Game of Thrones.
Now, Jayden, you'd mentioned a term that I think we kind of glossed over. And up front, and I want to make sure we talk about it before we finish. That's KPIs. So I don't know. Have we talked to KPIs on the show before? I think we have it. I feel like it was an acronym.
I talk about it a lot.
KPIs.
It had to
performance indicators.
But let's hear from Jayden's perspective.
Yeah, let's talk KPIs. What are KPIs, Jayden?
Key performance indicators. But I would say, really, how many phone calls does it normally take for you to have a quality conversation? Or how many emails does it take with this sort of messaging to kind of get a response? Or how many messages on LinkedIn does it take to get a meeting? I would say just being able to get data and metrics on stuff like that just kind of helps you see what's working and see what's not.
Yeah, because if you know the average message, right, gets a response, 1 out of every 10 calls, and then you try something else and it changes to 1 every 30 calls, you did something wrong and you need to go back to what you were doing before. So yeah, it's important.
Definitely,
it's important to have those sort of metrics.
Definitely.
You talked about how you're discovering those kind of on the fly and then giving them back to marketing so that they know, okay, well, here's the metrics that we're finding that are actual. This is what's occurring. So that should be your target to hit as a marketing organization.
Definitely. And just figuring out quality over quantity. I could call 300 people, but are 300 people going to pick up and have a quality conversation?
Yeah.
Rather than calling maybe 70 people that I kind of researched and know a little bit more about, and just have higher odds to work in your favor ultimately.
Yeah, you spend a little bit more time qualifying.
Back to that Bart analogy. I noticed the lashes are done, the shoes are done, the hair is done. Better qualified lead, right?
I'd say so.
Keep it simple, stupid, man.
All right.
Keep it simple.
So it's that time in the show where we say goodbye, where we wrap it up, where we talk about the things that we've learned to kind of summarize, and then we move it on to next week. So I'll go ahead and start with my summary, then pass it on to John and Jayden. We can let. Actually, you know what, John, you're gonna go last. We'll let Jayden go next, so she has a minute to collect her thoughts.
Works
so you don't have a chance to steal them. All right, so. This was actually a really interesting show for me. It uncovered a lot of things that I wasn't aware of just because I'm not really aware of a lot of the BDR, SDR activities. So, Outbound is really just outbound campaigns or outbound marketing, outbound lead generation is really just about reaching out to your prospective customers. As Jayden told us, if you can do a little bit of research up front, makes your odds even better. On the front lines, you're establishing KPIs and messaging on the fly to get it established for something that marketing can use. And from John, we even learned that the marketing team, the SDR team, BDRs are blending more and more. Jayden, what are your thoughts from this episode?
I would say, along with what you said, just making sure that marketing and sales are aligned. I feel like it's very siloed normally.
Yeah.
But if they can work together, I think it's only going to benefit everyone.
Well, yeah, cohesive
and just
cohesive messaging keeps things smooth, frictionless. Trying to keep things moving along as quickly as they can.
Definitely. And just focusing on research, reaching out to people with intention. People can read through the bullshit pretty easily.
Yeah.
So
yes, they can.
Just being personable.
John, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to throw that little curveball out there, baby. I made my joke about polar bears breaking the ice, but I think the key to what Jayden is teaching everyone who listens, that human connection cannot be overlooked. So how do we make that happen? Where marketing and sales are merging, it's in finding that message that ultimately sparks that interest and turns, that interest or into curiosity, where you have that human connection, where you can eventually get that upfront contract of, are you interested in doing business? Are you interested in maybe being friends? So I think it's critical in what we're doing here.
Yeah. Great episode, guys. This was a fun conversation. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can listen to more episodes by going to demogodspod.com. We get all the episodes posted on there in video format. We also have links to everywhere that you get your podcasts, to where you can find the Altar of the Demo Gods podcast, or everywhere you get your podcasts. Find us on demogodspod.com. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, on X if you're on X as well. Join us next week. We're going to be talking identifying stakeholders, or the who's who in the zoo, as we like to say on this show. We're going to be talking a bit more about that next week. If you have questions for us, think you'd be a good guest for the show, email us at demogodspod@gmail.com. So I hope everybody learned a little something. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you next week on Altar of the Demo Gods.